Violence from the Heart, a Fox 43 news special.
He beat me, told me to never ask where he was, what he was doing. It was none of my business.
I kept saying, "You're going to kill me, you're going to kill me." And when it was all over, he said, "I should have killed you."
I hid a lot of it from my friends and my family. I was embarrassed. I didn't want them to know.
I don't know what brought it about, but he chased me around the yard with a butcher knife, threatening to kill me.
And I was freaking out. I was scared. I thought, my God, one of these days he's going to kill me.
And they thought I was too smart to ever let it happen to me. Too smart, too pretty, too old, whatever.
Their stories are different, yet the same. They are victims of domestic violence. It is a problem all across America.
Pennsylvania is no exception. Last year, more than 125 women died at the hands of someone they loved, and 800,000 others are assaulted each year, victims of violence from the heart.
The victims of domestic violence can be anyone, your friend, your mother, even you.
In this program, Violence from the Heart, we'll show you how to recognize domestic violence, even the subtle signs.
Have a paper and pencil handy. We'll talk about finding a way out, how to obtain a protection from abuse order, and how to make it work.
We'll hear from the men who abuse, why they do it, and if they can ever overcome the problem.
Plus, we'll tour local shelters and plan safe escapes. How bad is the problem? In the past 60 seconds, 8 women have been battered.
He kicked me across the living room floor, and I had a bracelet on, and he kicked me some more because I'd put a nick in the coffee table.
Jane's wealthy husband was a pillar of his community.
He ate dinner with the same fork and the same knife and the same spoon. No one was ever allowed to use it. He always wanted to know where it was. You never went into a place in the house that he called his area.
Debbie's husband was a drug addict. Abuse knows no boundaries, social, economic, or racial.
He hit me so hard my face busted up. The violence then was more like tearing up things and scaring my daughter by breaking into the house when he had keys.
Abuse is more than hitting.
He did all the grocery shopping, and everybody thought that was wonderful, but they didn't know that was because I wasn't allowed to have any money, and I wasn't allowed to buy the groceries, and I wasn't allowed to cook what I wanted.
Sometimes women endure this for decades before leaving. Some stay forever.
I was raised that when you get married, it's a commitment, and if it's not working, you make it work. And so I tried really hard.
Most victims believe it's always their fault.
Nothing is right. And then you start to believe, I must be what he's saying because this is the person who married me. He's right, and I must be wrong.
They live with threats, depression, and isolation.
There have been times when I'd want to leave. He'd go out and disconnect something on the car so I couldn't. I had no telephone. I had no transportation. He had the vehicle. He drove. He took me where I had to go, and there was no freedom at all.
And despite promises to never hit or hurt again, violence only resurfaces.
He got worse. He threatened. He stalked me. He harassed me, restrained me in the home.
Shame is the victim's enemy and the abuser's tool.
And I just put up with it. I didn't want anybody to know. I'm trying to keep up the image. And I was just tense and nervous all the time. Always wondering the other shoe's going to drop.
Kathy's husband took their young child away.
And I was afraid I was never going to see this kid again. And that's when I realized, hey, this isn't normal life. This isn't the way that people should behave.
That's often the first wake-up call. Women will leave to save their children.
So they gave me the domestic violence hotline number, and I called and set up an appointment to come in and talk to a counselor. And from there, I say the day I walked in the door, our lives changed.
She said to me, you should save yourself. She said, save yourself.
Domestic violence is a problem that demands attention, but what can be done? Currently, the best the law has to offer is a protection from abuse order.
I called the police. They asked me, do I have papers? I said, what papers? He said, well, protection papers. I said, I don't even know what you're talking about.
The papers are protection from abuse orders. Debbie called a hotline and the process began.
It's not really complicated. It does take time because what you're doing is you're preparing a temporary order and a petition for the court to review and for a judge to sign it.
The petition involves several pages. It asks who the protection is from and why the person can be dangerous.
The client will write down her most recent incident of abuse and some previous incidences of abuse. If there are children involved, she will petition to have temporary custody awarded to her.
Attorneys or legal advocates prepare the petition and present it in court.
And that gives them protection under the law for 10 days. Sometime within the next 10 days, a final hearing must be held.
At that hearing, the victim must testify about the abuse, otherwise the order is thrown out. When the victim follows through, most times the order is granted.
And what the order does is it directs the defendant not to approach, harass, abuse, threaten, stalk the petitioner or any of the other household members that are included in the order.
It's pretty serious because you're asking sometimes for somebody to leave their home and you're taking custodial rights of their children.
Police serve the PFA to the abuser.
I was afraid I was going to jail. I really was. I didn't know what to expect. I had no idea what to do. You know, I knew I couldn't see my children. I couldn't call them. I couldn't talk to them. And that scared me.
The abuser usually pays filing fees and sheriff fees, but if the victim drops the order, she pays the court costs. The PFA lasts for a year.
If he has harassed her, terrorized her, stalked her, or verbally or physically abused her, that then is a violation of the order.
And if there's a violation, the victim must call police. A judge can fine the abuser up to $1,000 or 6 months in jail.
Protection from abuse orders, I believe, are a good thing. One, it gives the survivor of domestic violence an easier avenue to have their abuser arrested if they would show up at the house.
You're letting people who are in charge, officials, the court, the police, the state police, county control, you're letting them all know that somebody is doing something wrong to you and that you need help.
There are many cases when women obtain protection from abuse orders and the end result is disastrous. Can a PFA work? Yes. Will it? That depends on the abuser and also on the victim.
But it kind of depends on the abuser. Some will look at that and just say, that's a piece of paper, I don't care. Usually there's at least one violation because they like to see just how far that they can go.
Greg violated the PFA against him by calling his girlfriend on the telephone.
I said some other things that I shouldn't have said, and from there it just, I really got in trouble with the law then, and I went back to jail and I stayed a lot longer.
His girlfriend lived because she immediately called police and pressed charges. Many other women don't and die. Carrie McCrary had a PFA, so did Kathy Schaefer, April Smith, Patty Anonia, Shelley Cummings, Lisa Mock. The list of local women goes on.
There's been a lot of women that's been killed behind the PFA, and I think they have a right to think it's going to make them safe, but the only way it's going to make them safe is if the police follow through. I have literally saved my own life and I had a PFA.
Police west of here were not helpful to Mary. She ran hundreds of miles from county to county to escape her abuser. When he violated the order and found her, she thought she would die.
The look in his eyes, he would have cut my throat. So I kind of said a little prayer. I kind of said, Lord, I have a child, because he was in my house and I raised the phone. As long as I had the phone raised, he had the razor raised. And I kind of eased it down, and he eased the razor down.
Eventually, she escaped and ran to a shelter.
That's the most dangerous time for a victim, especially a woman, when she leaves an abusive relationship.
The advice from everyone, look out for danger. Be quick to call the police and follow through.
If they don't get any action from a line officer out on the street, call his superior. Let them know, hey, I called, this guy was right in my front yard, cursing, screaming, and he wasn't arrested. Why not? There is a lot of responsibility in having a petition and making sure that you are taken care of.
Kathy's husband harassed her about their young son, repeatedly violating her PFA. Only after repeated calls to the police and a visit to prison did he stop.
He said, I don't want to be around her. She has a protective order against me. And finally I realized, thank God it's working. I really do believe that a PFA is all that we have, and it'll work if we work with it.
Domestic violence makes up the biggest category of calls for police each year. Some, though, criticize police, saying they need more sensitivity in handling these cases. Officers say what they really need is more cooperation.
There was an incident not too long ago, and they said that the guy broke into the house, kicked the door open, and killed the woman. And they said they had a standoff, and something led up to that. And perhaps if they had done something before, the woman would have still been living.
The thoughts of a domestic abuse survivor watching this homicide on a TV in a shelter. She wonders, could police have done more to stop the killing of Natasha Stallworth? Her husband is the accused killer. Police are often a source of frustration for abuse victims.
I left the first county because it got to be this big battle with the PFA, the police and him. And one time the police said to me, "Why don't you just move?" And I really wanted to stay and fight, because I felt like, well, why do I have to move when they could just put him in jail and keep him for a while and teach him a lesson? I felt really cheated.
Police response and sensitivity to PFAs varies. High Spire police respond to about 650 domestic calls a year. That's a lot in a town with a population of 3,400. They can respond, but they can't always help.
If the victim has no injury, we can't do anything. If the victim doesn't really want to press charges, there's nothing we can do. We need the victim to actually go through with the charges, go through with it as far as the hearing and testify at the hearing, to get a PFA, see that through.
The main complaint from law enforcement: victims who don't follow through.
The problem we're having is they'll get a PFA and a week later they'll drop the PFA because they're still in love.
Last year in Dauphin County, there were 332 arrests for domestic violence. About 90% were withdrawn. Often police return again and again to the same home.
So what? So what? You know, women have a right to change their mind, and if they have to go back, go to the same house or home or whatever, so what? You know, the time that you don't is the time that this woman could lose her life.
There are many reasons women drop PFAs. Threats from the abuser tops the list. The victim fears for her life and her children's. Chief Roth understands, but it doesn't make the job any easier.
The man will convince the woman that she can't live without him. You can see that this is what's going on, but I guess they don't see it themselves.
Abusers hurt the ones they are supposed to love. The courts are trying to stop domestic violence at the heart of the problem with mandatory counseling for abusers. Does it work? Some say yes.
I didn't want to come. I just felt as though I didn't need to be here. I wasn't doing anything wrong.
Yet Greg found any excuse to beat his ex-girlfriend.
For wearing a miniskirt, if I thought she was talking to me wrong, I put her in the hospital. I broke her jaw, broke her nose, and knocked out 2 teeth, and broke her ribs.
That beating was the final straw. She pressed charges and Greg went to jail. The PFA came 2 days later.
When I finally got it, it was a shocker. And I just, after 10 years, I never thought that she would do it, and she did it.
Greg has been in Lancaster County's Abusers Program for 17 weeks. Tonight's discussion is about isolation. They write about a time they isolated their victim.
And then they have to pick out the intents, beliefs of why they did those things, why they believe they had the right to.
Court-ordered attendance is mandatory, and if they don't show, it's back to jail. The men pay $450 for the counseling. If they don't pay, it's back to jail. The counseling is intense and tough, but not combative.
People will get personal respect when they come to a batterers program, and they will learn through our modeling of equality, which is why we have a male-female team, so that they can see a man and a woman can have an equal relationship.
They learn about the many forms of abuse, and that it's a lifestyle, not a singular incident.
They don't let you, what they call, slack off. They go right to the issues. What are some of the things that you've done? Hit, kick, punch, shove, call names, etc. They want to know that. They want you to be held accountable for what you do.
Bill was in an abusers group run by Tressler Lutheran Services in Cumberland County. He joined voluntarily after putting his son in the hospital.
His mother and I were having an argument, and he stepped in to stick up for his mom. and I took that as a challenge. And I went after him. I chased him up the steps and grabbed him by his neck. He had to go to the hospital.
How could he do this? What goes through his mind?
You don't feel anything. There's no you don't make any conscious decision. You're acting strictly out of anger. And the anger takes over, and you can't think, at least I couldn't think rationally. And there are lots of times when I couldn't remember some of the things I've done.
The mental issues are complex. The abuser can control himself in public.
At work, I wasn't violent. I was very quiet, very just to myself. I wouldn't get angry. I wouldn't raise my voice. There could be repercussions, such as being fired or reprimanded or whatever. At home, after the first couple times of being violent and nothing happening, it was sort of a safe place.
Bill went to the group for 53 weeks. Tressler's program only mandates 26. Some doubt an abuser can ever change.
I truly believe once an abuser, always an abuser. They may start out physical, and then they may stop but become emotionally and verbally abusive.
They're only doing it because of court mandate. They don't give a hoot about the information that's being imparted. And I'm certainly not saying that that's true across the board, but people do what they need to do so that they don't go to jail.
So far, close to 100 men have completed the counseling program in Lancaster County, and the counselors continue to track them for 2 years afterwards, checking police records to see if they are rearrested for any kind of abuse. And so far, they've only had 7 men reoffend. And while that sounds like pretty good numbers, it's still very, very difficult to tell if the group is completely successful.
We don't know if those other 60-some people have actually been nonviolent. They just might not have been arrested.
At Tressler, no one who's completed has reoffended.
I certainly can't guarantee anything. I mean, we may be looking at a 30-year-old man who's got a lot of years left and who may be out of a relationship, and we don't know what's going to happen when he gets into the next one. But I think we've given them some skills that they can call upon, and also an understanding of some of the deeper sources of where some of these behaviors come from.
Still, there are those that remain unreachable.
There are a few who don't change, who fight us pretty much every inch of the way. I'd say that's only about 5% or less.
The court-ordered counseling is the only alternative to jail the justice system has to stop the problem at its source. Dauphin County Judge Janine Turgeon has mandated counseling since 1992.
Studies all across the country have shown that the batterers group meetings are the most effective. When you're in a group with other men at various stages in the process, they can be the most effective with each other to help each other.
And for each man that is helped, the program is a lifesaver, not only for their future partners, but for themselves.
I knew that I needed help. I knew that I couldn't do it on my own like I thought I could before. I figured it would go away. I kept telling myself, well, when he reaches age 8, I'd stop. Age 10, I'd stop. 12, I'd stop.
I know more about myself now than I ever did. I learned a lot.
It's so important to stop abusers from tormenting, especially for the children. Not only do they suffer, but they often grow up to make others suffer.
And I need help. Mommy! I'm trying to get somebody.
A 6-year-old calls 911. Her mother's being beaten. Listen to the terror in her voice.
My mom's all broken, and my mom just fell down the stairs. Your mom just fell down the stairs? My mommy's dead.
Think of the impact on a child's mind. Carol also grew up with this horror.
He was in the process of batting my mother around. He said to me, "Say goodbye to your mother because next time you see her, she'll be dead."
And Debbie's son lived with violence for years.
He did not feel safe. He was sleeping with a knife under his pillow, hiding knives throughout the house.
Her husband insisted their son abide by strict and strange rules. The little boy had to dress like his father, copy his hairstyle, and watch him beat his mother. The abuse produced terrifying consequences.
Our son was killing pets. He killed pet rabbits of mine. If we went to my girlfriend's, usually when we got home, she would call me and say that he had killed one of her kittens or one of her puppies.
Children in violent households have lifelong problems, feel guilty and helpless, and the barriers between love and hate grow hazy.
You can't grow up with any kind of normal sense of family life, and mom and dad are always there, and there's safety. There wasn't safety at home.
Worst of all, they continue the cycle. Girls grow into fearful women and boys into men that abuse.
See my father strangle my mother. I seen him pull a knife on my mother, a gun on my mother, and there was nothing I can do. I was too young. I felt defenseless. I thought he was going to do it to me. And the one time that I did, he told me to kill me.
Greg turned to drugs and alcohol and followed in his father's footsteps.
He would come home and pick fights with my mom or something, and I would be, since I was oldest child, I would feel it's my responsibility to intervene, to stop it. And then the anger and the rage would turn towards me.
Both men see the pattern repeating in their sons.
That scares me. I see how he reacts to his younger brother, and I see how he reacts to certain situations, and I can see why. And I feel responsible for it, and it hurts.
And these are the kids that I see in juvenile court then committing the crimes. And the school counselors, I'm sure, see them sitting in their office. And these are the kids that the teachers just can't reach in school because they emotionally, mentally shut down.
90% of the children Judge Turgeon sees in juvenile court are from violent households. Women must remove their children from these places and seek counseling.
If you find yourself in an abusive relationship or you know someone who is, it is important to end it for yourself and for your children. There are ways to plan an escape.
When you get ready to leave, you have to be very careful because you can tell if you make one wrong move, they're going to hurt you.
So planning must be done in absolute secret. Make an escape kit and hide it. Put aside money in an envelope and add to it whenever you can. Have identification, your driver's license, social security card, your birth certificate, and your welfare card if you have one, and make some spare keys. Include medications and insurance information if possible, and get a credit card or a bank account in just your name, plus a prepaid telephone calling card. And most importantly, don't, under any circumstances, let the abuser catch on.
That's the worst thing you could do to them because they think they're losing you and they're losing control and they're desperate, so they'll do anything.
Think of all possible escape routes and develop a sign for a neighbor to call police. But not everyone can plan an escape.
Some women can't do that. I mean, if they're fearful, if it's a crisis situation or they've been threatened, they're fearful of their life or in a situation like that, they have to leave.
And run. But at the least, memorize a hotline number. A shelter will help you start over.
There are shelters for needy women in nearly every county in Pennsylvania. Abused women need to understand these facilities can and will help them start a new life.
It was hard to go. I didn't want to be in a shelter, but I didn't really feel like I had any choices at that time.
It's a place no one wants to come to, a place of last resort. Jean thought a shelter would be institutional and lonely.
All of the people that were there, they really pulled together, and it was very supportive, a lot more than I thought.
And we tried to make her understand that first of all, she's welcome here, that we're going to take good care of her, that it's a safe place.
With lots of locks and alarms throughout the building and panic buttons on every floor, this is a typical room in the Lancaster Shelter for Abused Women. Families are not separated. Larger rooms have 5 beds if needed. There's a children's wing with child counselors, a playroom for younger kids, and an area for teens too. There's a full-time cook in the kitchen, but the women are expected to help with household chores. Counseling is a big part of daily life.
Many women blame themselves for what has ever happened to them. So I very quickly try to refocus her, to take the blame away from her. Then they begin to understand I'm not the only person who has gone through this, and it's okay to talk about it.
Debbie thought the Cumberland County shelter would be dirty and crowded.
I found out quite differently when I did get here. It was very homey. It was nice. It was clean. People were here to help you, talk to you 24 hours a day.
The Dauphin County shelter is much the same. At every location, the first step in getting there is the same.
Realizing that you can, that women do it all the time. We see it all the time here.
And they realize the obstacles to getting here.
I should have gone for help a long time ago, but it's humiliating to even admit that somebody can have such control and treat you bad.
Here, victims have several months to pull themselves together.
I didn't have to worry about how I was going to have to pay for my meals or my, anything like that. That was taken care of, and that I needed to take care of myself and my son. And they want you to do things for yourself. They empower you.
You've heard the stories of pain and anguish. You've seen where to go for help if you're a victim or an abuser.
In just this half hour, 250 women have been beaten. Help is out there. It can work if we all try.
People need to listen. This is real. We deal with it every day here. We hear all kinds of stories, and the system needs to understand that this is real.
Real women, real beatings, real problems.
I would like to see stiffer penalties when they violate a protection from abuse order. Some cases, judges will give out a $100 fine. I don't think that's telling an abuser anything.
This person that is abusing needs to feel it. Just the fact that they've gone to jail for 30 days is going to make them think.
It could always be improved. We could have more education, more training.
Soon there will be a state police registry and a national registry with names, addresses, and descriptions of every abuser on every PFA. That way violators can be tracked and victims can be protected anywhere.
And soon Pennsylvania will require PFA orders in every county to be consistent, making it easier for judges and police. Everyone must work together because when violence from the heart stops, life begins.
There's peace at home now. I'm planning on going to school. It's something I've wanted to do for a long time.
I learned that I could love him and not live with him. You understand what I'm saying? Maybe I loved him, but I couldn't live with him.
The support, it helps me to keep going and, try to work toward my goal, which is just to have a little bit of freedom in my life.
I know that personally, I walked away from everything. I couldn't afford my mortgage anymore. My house was foreclosed upon. I lost my car. I lost a lot of things. I'm in debt, but I'm free.